Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Bong, hey. Hey. Oh, apa? Wait, wait. Where the TV ke? They don't end man. Alik. Apa yang aku tu? Apa tu lik? Tahu. Cuma yang receive tiket mah.
It is not audible, sir.
Dengar. Oh, keren, keren. Oi. Nó lại mệt rồi. Để em lên lít nhỉ? Em lên lít.
Is it audible now?
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is audible now.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes.
think it's better.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, thank you for listening. I right? Maybe your friends have got the Google Classroom. Please inform them that they can contact us, or you also can join the classroom. Okay, all right. So I'll just brief you regarding the sessions that we'll be having. Okay, before we start. Okay, so today we'll be having introduction to computers and also introduction to operating system, and will be felicitated by Mr. Sangyal Lama. He is the officer of the department. Tomorrow we'll be having introduction to word processing software, and that will be taken by me. And after that, we'll be having introduction to Excel by Mr. John Harry Bernonconry. Then point on day 3. Day 3 itself, again, we will be continuing the online educational tools. The 3-day sessions that we have, and we will be doing that on from 1:30 to 4 o'clock. Okay. But you complete your assessment and assignment so that you can complete during the day itself. All right. From 28th to November 5th, will be. So you have a laptop and are unable to come and attend the private classes, the practical, then you can stay at home and do work. But if you have a doubt, you can reach out to us. If you have confidence that you can do all these things and learn by yourself, then you do at home and then submit the assignment. Okay. And the survey and the has to be completed. We expect you to come.
Your voice is breaking, sir.
Survey will understand. Yeah, is it for all? Is it all?
Your sound is breaking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's
Sorry?
your voice is breaking, sir.
So,
Your voice isn't audible, sir. Please, yeah, please.
So what I was saying is that we have given you a survey on the IT infrastructure that, and through this survey, we'll be able to understand how many of you are facing issues with that. Okay, and I'm requesting everyone to complete this particular survey by today so that we can plan for the practical. All right. So take more time, and now we have Mr. Sanyal with us, right, Assistant Professor of the department, and we'll be taking the session for today. All right, over to you, sir. You can take over the session. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. So I hope I'm audible to
Good
all.
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, student.
Okay. So I think how many? I think some 170 of you have joined. So without waiting, I think others might be joining later on. Okay. So what I would like to do is I would like to present my presentation. Okay, my the entire lecture will be given through a presentation. Okay, so let me just share my tab. Okay, so I hope the slide is visible to everyone, right?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'll start.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Okay, so I'll start now. Okay. So since I'm taking the first class for all of you, so in this session we'll be discussing only regarding the basic introduction of computers. Okay. So my name is Sangya, okay, and I'm from the IT department here in MLC. So basically, first thing that comes into mind is what is computer? Okay. So computer uh, is a machine that manipulates data according to a list of instructions. Okay, so what is this now? What do you mean by this? Now, it seems like quite a complicated definition of it. So, but let me try to make you understand what do you mean by this? Okay, so a computer is a machine, right? It is a machine, right? I hope everyone agrees. It is a machine. Okay, so what it does is it manipulates the data. So what does it mean by manipulates the data? Okay. So what does the computer do? Where do we use a computer? So a computer we use when we have to, let's say when we have to compute something or we want to do something. Okay, because a computer cannot use itself. Okay, it needs a user to use it. So what does the user does is, so the user will always give certain kind of input data. Okay, like for example, you want to use your laptop or your desktop to serve Facebook. Okay, what you will do? First of all, what is done is you will open the browser, right? The laptop. Let's assume that the laptop or the computer or the desktop is on. So first thing is you will on the browser, then the browser will not know, right, what to do. Then you will enter something, right, like for example www.facebook.com. Then only it will take you down to that particular website, right? So what it's doing is, now a computer is a machine that manipulates data according to the list of instructions. So the instruction that we had given was to visit the Facebook website. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Okay? So a computer is a machine that manipulates data according to the list of instructions. Whatever you tell the computer to do, the computer will do. Okay, the computer is not intelligent enough to do things by itself. It always requires someone to give instructions to it. Okay? Unlike us, the humans, we don't wait for someone to give us instructions, right? We choose or we decide all the decision by ourselves, right? Also, apart from this, now another thing is, another definition can be also seen over here, is that a computer is a device capable of performing computation and making logical decision at speed millions and even billions of times faster than human beings can. Okay, so this is why, even though the computer takes instructions from the humans, but the computational speed is much more faster as compared to us, the humans. Okay. Then the third definition, if you look, okay, so there can be different types of definitions, okay, for what about computer. So these are the few of the definitions which I have taken, which I felt it is relevant for you. Okay. So the third, if you look into the third definition, a computer is an electronic machine. Okay, so always remember that. Always include this, that a computer is an electronic machine or an electronic device. It's not just a machine or a device. We have to always include this term, that is electronic. Okay, so computer is an electronic machine which is used for data processing. Okay, that the output which comes after processing data through computer is known as information. Okay, so there is a small difference, a slight difference between data and information. Okay, because we might unknowingly, we might always use this term, that is data and information, but there's a little bit of difference between these two terms, that is a data and information. Okay, so what do you mean by data is something which is given like something raw. Okay, like for example for example, the example which I always give to my students is, like, if I am given the details of students, okay, currently you all are in the first semester, enrolled in the first semester, and who are currently right now in taking this introduction of computers, right, this subject. So if I get the details of the entire students, Okay, details. You get the details of the entire students of MLCU, regardless of which semester they are from. Okay, if I get the details from the entire semester, so is it useful for me? So if I get in a bulk, like the entire details of all the students who ever are enrolled in MLCU, it might not be that much useful for me. Okay, but if it is refined and I'm given the details of the student who are currently, like for example, you all currently who are engaged in this particular subject, fundamentals of computers, then it becomes something useful for me. It becomes something useful for me. Now that is information. Now that is information. The initial one was data. This entire thing was data to me. Okay. So this initial one was entirely only data. Okay. Then the second one, it is refined and given, and the details which are given of the students who are just enrolled in fundamentals of computers, like for example you all, then it becomes something useful for me, and we can consider it that to be information. Okay. So this is the difference between your data and information. Okay. So I hope it is. I hope you all got it. Okay. So if any doubts are there, please do let me know. So if you move. Okay. So if we begin now, if we start with the history of computers, okay, history of computers. So there you can see there are different kinds of generations of computers. Okay. So if we start with the first generation, so now the first generation evolved around 1945. Okay. The first electronic computer, let's say the first computer was developed in the year 1945. Okay, but it was not like any. It didn't look or even function any of like what we have today. Okay, so it looked something like this. Okay, this is the first generation. You can see how huge it is. It doesn't resemble any of a kind what we see today. So these were the technology which were used was vacuum tubes. Okay, and the processing was quite slow. Okay, and the storage also was quite slow as what we have today. Okay? And you can see it was quite bulky, quite heavy. Okay? So this was the first generation. So now we consider the computers which were developed in the era in the period from 1945 to 1955 as the first generation computers. Moving on, now the second generation. Now in the second generation, what happened was now there was certain kind of advancement. Okay, so here a new kind of technology was introduced that was transistors. Okay? Now these are transistors. Now these transistors, what happened was as compared to the previous first generation computers, which are quite bulky, heavy, and the processing was quite slow. Okay, and it was quite compatible. Like let's say it was the sizes were quite reduced, and the processing speed was a little bit faster as compared to the first generation computers. Okay. So now the second generation computers, now in the period, now they lie in the period from 1955 to 1965. Now moving to the third generation. Okay, now the third generation is from 1966 to 1970. Okay, now in this third generation, transistors were replaced by ICs. Okay, so what are ICs? Are integrated circuits. Okay, that is fabrication of 1,000 electronic components on single silicon chip. Okay, so what was happening was previously whatever it was, you can see that like as the advancement in generation is happening, the sizes of the components are being reduced. Okay, so using this drastic reduction in the size of computers. Okay, so there was a drastic drastic reduction in the size of computers, and also in terms of speed or performance was high in comparison to the previous generation. Okay, so now this is how the third generation computers look like. When we move to the fourth generation, okay, so in this fourth generation, in this generation, ICs were replaced by LSI. Okay, now again, now what started to happen is now the the sizes of the components now even became smaller and smaller or compact. Okay, so now in this generation, that is the fourth generation, now the ICs were even replaced by your LSI or the large scale integrated circuits. That means more number of electronic components on silicon chip. Okay. Previously, as in now, as you look back, initially what was the technology was in the first generation there was a huge vacuum tubes only. The components were very big, okay, like the size of a human. The computers were the size of a human, right? Then as the generation advanced, what happened was now these components became smaller and smaller. Okay, so now while reaching the fourth generation, now the ICs were also replaced by LSI. That means more and more components were reduced. Okay, there was a reduction in the size of these are low cost. So sorry, there's a spelling mistake. Low cost, small size, and high performance in comparison computers. So now currently we are in the fifth generation. So now in the fifth generation, LSIs are replaced. Now the LSIs were large scale integrated circuits. Now these are also again now replaced by what? Replaced by VLSI. That means very large scale integrated circuits. So now, as we have seen now, what is happening is previously the entire computer, whatever functionalities were there in our computer, now most of the things put in our hand, that is in a tablet or in a mobile phone. So how it is possible is because the component size are becoming smaller and smaller. Okay. So currently, from the year 1980 to present till present, we are in the fifth generation. Okay. So currently we are in the fifth generation. So after looking at the history, okay, that was a very brief history of regarding the generation and how the computers developed. Okay, so now moving on, now let's look into the two main categories of a computer. Okay, that is what we always hear. That is our hardware and software. Okay, so what is basically a hardware is, if it's very simple in a very simple kind of a definition for everyone to understand, being so much technical, how can we understand is that very simple, right? I hope everyone can understand that. It means that anything which you can touch with your finger, it is a hardware. Okay. Like for example, we have a keyboard, screen, printers, right? So anything you can touch all those things and you can touch and feel it, right? So that is a hardware. Okay. And what is the software then? Now for computers, okay. So for computers, hardware to work, it must follow a set of instructions that is supplied to it as software. Okay. So now that for the hardware to function, it needs a set of instructions that is given through software. We can say that hardware is a body, software is nothing but, in terms of, let's say, in our human nature, let's say it's a soul, something which keeps our body running, okay, functioning, right? So it was so we'll be looking at this in the later phase also in a much more little bit more detailed manner. Okay. So I hope it's understandable up till here. Okay. So hardware refers to computer's physical component, as I have just discussed, that anything which you can touch with your finger, hardware. Are So I hope you can hear me now again. So few of the examples of hardware are still not clear. Is it fine? Okay. So few of the examples of hardware, okay, can be a computer case, like your cabinet. We have our CPU, okay, central processing unit, monitor, keyboard and mouse, okay, disk drive, all the CD-ROM, DVD, hardware, RAM, speaker, printer, okay, right? So you can touch all these things. So we can categorize this as hardware components. Okay. Now the software, okay. Now the software, the terms of software refers to set of instructions. Okay. Please remember that software is nothing but it's a set of instructions inside a software. Okay. We the IT people, what we do is we write certain instructions. Okay. It is a set of instructions only, like in a different kind of let's say in a different kind of manner which the computer can understand. Okay. So but basically it's nothing but it is a set of instructions. So why it is required is because the machine cannot decide what to do, so it always waits for instructions from the humans. Okay. For that purpose the software does it. Through software we give instructions to the machine, okay, or to the computer what to do. Okay. So now now the term software refers to set of instructions that directs the hardware to accomplish a task. Okay. So now this software is also, now the software is simply what, it's a set of instructions. Okay. But this software also can be categorized into three different categories. First thing is your system software. Okay. Then we have our application software, and then we have our utility software. Okay. So system software, see here with the help of this diagram, what we can see is that on top of a hardware, what is required is a system software is required. Now, what is a system software? A very simple example of a system software is operating system. Okay. Operating system. Without an operating system, the hardware cannot function. Okay. So I hope you all know what is a. I hope you have used a laptop or a desktop or even your smartphone. Okay. So in that, what you will find is now there always consists of software that is your operating system. Now, for example, if you are using your laptop or your desktop, it might be running Windows, right? So Windows, if Windows are not installed, okay, Windows operating system are not installed, what happens is you cannot run your laptop. Even though there are different types, even though you have different kinds of the softwares with you, but until unless the Windows operating system, or let's say in terms of your phone, Android or iOS, okay, it is not installed, your hardware cannot function. Okay, and all the other softwares, okay, they run on top of your operating system. Like for example, you have an application software. A very simple example of application software is your let's say your uh, Microsoft Office. Okay, now they run on top of your operating system. And in terms of your phone, we have our WhatsApp. Okay, so until unless you don't have either Android or iOS, you cannot install your WhatsApp, right? So there you can see that application softwares are installed on top of your system software. So in order, okay, so now we have seen that up till now what we have seen is that your computer is nothing but it's an electronic device that takes instructions to function, right? So now there is certain kind of a cycle, okay, or let's say parts which are involved in all this process. Okay, in that process where the instruction is taken and the output is given. Okay, so now we will call it as, or it is known as information process cycle. Okay, so now this information process cycle consists of 4 parts where each part involves one or more specific components of the computer. Okay, now these 4 parts are input, processing, output, and storage. Okay, so here you can see, here I have depicted input, processing, output, and storage. Okay, first thing is, when you want to use a machine, it always requires certain kind of input. Okay, so a computer receives data via an input device such as keyboard. Okay, so in order for the machine to function, you need to provide certain kind of instructions or input. Okay, so that is given through certain input devices. Then after that, what happens is, there is a process. Now after receiving that, what the machine does is, now the machine will understand, okay, what does the user want? Okay, what type of output the user wants or it is required by the user. Then it will process. Then it will provide the output. Now the output is provided via certain devices, certain output devices. Like for example, you want to listen to music, okay, from your phone or from your laptop. Okay, you have given the music, okay, you have played the music via your let's say via your laptop. Okay, but in order to listen to that music, you require certain devices, right? It has processed the machine, the computer has processed your request, but how to deliver that? It requires certain devices, some certain output devices. Okay, so a computer produces the output through an output device such as the monitor to display the result of the processing operation. For example, the monitor is also an output because it will show you the results. Okay? It will display you the results also, and also, like for example, speakers where the music can be heard. Okay? So apart from that, a computer also stores the result of the processing operation in a storage device such as the hard disk. Okay, like there might be certain kind of operations where you need to where you are required to save your work. Okay? Like for example, you have done your assignment in Microsoft Word. Okay? You have written down your assignment or you have typed your assignment in Microsoft Word. So now what is required is you need to save it so that you can submit it to your teacher. Okay? So that process is known as storage. So where it is that? So that storage of your data is done in certain devices, like for example, your storage devices such as your hard disk. Okay? So what we can understand from up till now, whatever we have done, what we can understand is computer is an electronic device, okay, which can accept data. Okay? It accepts data via input device. Okay? It processes it. Okay? It gives the result after the processing. Okay? It gives the processing result via your output device and also stores the processed data. Okay. So now, if we move further and look into up till now, what we have discussed is, we have discussed that there's an input device, there's a processing of that input. Okay, whatever input you have received via input device, it is processed. Then again, it is displayed via your output device and also stored. Okay, so let's understand what is an input device. So, in entering data or instruction into a computer is called input. Therefore, an input device is a device which enters data or instructions into a computer. Okay. So input devices are necessary to convert data into a form which can be understood by computers. Okay. So what do we? So do you think that that the computer, whatever you input, like for example, you type A or type B from your keyboard, does the machine take it as A and B? Okay, because we know that inside a computer, what are there? There are circuits, there are components, there are electronic components over there. Okay? And these components, they don't understand human language. Okay? They only understand machine language. So machine, in order to operate the machine, what is required is it always requires some electric signals. Okay. So what this input device does, it converts the user input. Okay. It converts the user input into a machine understandable language. Okay. That means in terms of electric signals. Okay. So you just understand that whatever input you have given, when it reaches to the processing part, it will view it as certain kind of electronic signals. Okay, nothing else. So so everything, so all those things, it's done by your input device. Okay. So some input devices are, you see, mouse, joystick, scanner, keyboard, and barcode reader. Okay, so these are the few of the examples. So there can be more. Okay, like for example, if you are playing games, the joystick is there. Okay. So that is also considered as an input device, and we always use a mouse. Keyboard is always used. Scanner. Okay. Then also, if you have gone to some departmental schools, you might see that there is a barcode reader. So that is also an input device. Okay. So next is, what is an output device? Okay, we have seen we have understood what is an input device. Okay. So now let's look into what is an output device. So the information we get from the computer is known as output. Okay. Because we have given certain input. So I want this. Okay. It processes it. Okay. Then it gives certain output. Okay. So the information we get, because after doing all this thing, after processing everything, it gives us only the required part. Okay. So that part is known as is some kind of information. So that information that we get from the computer is known as output. Okay. The computer presents this information through these devices, such as we have our monitor, printer, also plotter, and also speakers. Okay. So these devices, these hardware devices, which you see, what they do is, now they give us only the output. Okay. Whatever was required by us. So now we have understood regarding input and output. Okay, what are input, what are output devices? So I hope you can categorize now by looking at it and by also knowing the functionality of it, that either it is an output or an input or an output device. Okay. So next, moving on. Now there is something known as system unit components. Okay, so now these are basically involved in processing part. Okay, so the system unit itself has several important sub-components, such as system board. We have our central processing unit, that is your CPU, memory, system bus, and storage devices. Okay. So what is a system board? The system board is a personal computer component that acts as the backbone of the entire computer system. Okay. Without this, we cannot, just only with an input and output device, we cannot say it's a computer. The actual thing that makes a computer, okay, is the processing part. So now that processing is done in the system board. Okay. Now you can see this is a system board, okay, where you can see several different components are present. Okay. So this is a system board. So that's why system board can be considered as a computer component that acts as the backbone of the entire computer system. So you say the system board is the backbone of your computer system. Okay, why? Because it consists of all the important processing components which are required for by a computer. Okay. So you can see CPU slot is here. Now we can also call it, in the market it is also known as motherboard also. Okay. So all the slots, all the component slots are shown here, or they are present here. Okay. So in that, okay, so in this system board, you can see here the CPU slot is there. Okay. So now, if the system board is not present, so we cannot, we don't have a place to place our CPU. So now CPU, as I hope you have known in your smaller classes also, CPU is called as the brain of the computer. Why? Because all the processing is done here in your CPU. Okay. And to hold the CPU, there is a slot in your system board. So what is the CPU is? The central processing unit. Sometimes it is also known as a microprocessor or just processor, is the real brain of the computer and is where most of the calculation takes place. Okay. All the instructions, whatever you have given for a computer, to a computer, so now it calculates all the things and gives us the output. So all the calculation is done here in the CPU. Okay. So the CPU is also called, sometimes called as microprocessor or just processor. Then apart from your CPU, we have our memory. Okay. Now memory is a personal computer component that comprises the electronic storage area in the computer. Okay. It can be considered either volatile or non-volatile. Okay. So now this image is of our RAM. Okay. So which is a very important component of your computer. Okay. So now even in your smartphone also, the RAM is also a very important component for its functionality. Okay. So now this is also a memory unit. Okay. So there are two different types of memory components which are present in your computer. So they can be categorized either as a volatile or non-volatile memory. Okay. So what is a volatile and what is a non-volatile? So for example, you have downloaded a game. Okay. You have downloaded a game from via torrent, or you have taken from your friend. Then what you do is you store it in your machine. Okay. in your laptop or in your computer, right? So that game, okay, the file of the game will get stored in your machine even if you turn it off, or even until and unless you don't delete it from your machine. Okay. So that storage or that memory where you store it, that is known as a non-volatile memory. Okay. So what is a volatile is, like for example, now in order to run this, when you run this game, okay, so now when you get the interface, right, you get the shooting interface or the football interface. Okay. So it remains in a specific memory unit for a certain amount of time, okay, which is used only to run that game during that when the game is running. Okay. Because after you turn it off, once you turn it off your game, what happens is, if it is not stored, it will not get stored, right? So what happens is, now that memory space which was used to run your game, now that is known as your volatile memory. Okay. That means once you turn it off, everything whatever was stored, it will go away. Okay. It will not remain. It will not remain up till the next time. So that is, so we can consider RAM to be a volatile memory. Because why does the speed of your processing depend upon RAM? Because Now in our RAM, all the temporary files are stored for a certain amount of time. After a certain amount of time, that files will be removed from RAM. Okay. Then we have the system bus. Okay. Now the system bus is the main communication part between your CPU and memory. So there is a certain special kind of a communication path between your CPU and your memory, because the CPU is where the processing takes place. Okay. This processing takes place. Okay. And the memory is where all the data are stored, because in order to process the data, it needs to access it from the memory. Okay. And also the other, let's say in terms of our volatile and non-volatile memory. Okay. Then we have the storage devices. Okay. So what is a storage devices? A storage device is a system unit. So it is a system unit component such as hard drive that enables your user to save data for reuse at a later time, even after the personal computer is shut down and restart. Okay. So I hope everyone knows what is a hard disk. Okay. So the storage devices also, there are different types of storage devices. The various types of storage devices used in personal computers are, we have a floppy disk drive, hard disk, optical drives, and solid state storage devices. Our floppy drive is not much in use these days. It was used previously. So this is how your floppy disk looks like. So it was used to store data and in a portable way transfer from one machine to another machine. Okay. So a floppy disk or floppy diskette is a type of disk storage component, storage composed of a thin and flexible disk of a magnetic storage medium. So this is how your floppy disk look like, and the memory unit was very less as compared to what we have in our current days. So now, then we have the hard disk drive. So hard disk HDD is a personal computer storage device that uses fixed media, which means that the disk is built into the drive and the drives are not removed from the computer unless you are performing an upgrade or a repair. Okay. So whenever you buy a new computer or a laptop, it comes along with the with the device. Okay. So you can so as here it is mentioned that these drives are not removed from the computer unless you are performing an upgrade or a repair. Suppose you want to upgrade from a certain let's say this was of 1 TB to extra 1 TB. Okay. Suppose to 2 TB, then you remove it, or you transfer the data from the current hard disk to your new hard disk, or you just add a new hard disk. Okay. Then we have optical disk. Okay. Like DVD or CDs. Okay. So an optical disk is a personal computer storage device that stores data optically rather than magnetic. Okay. So previously, so in the previous examples, these are all, there are certain magnetic disks. Okay. Inside this also there is a magnetic disk. Okay. Where where the data is written it is written over there. So whatever data you store, now it gets embedded over there. Okay? So it is using the technology of magnetic tape technology. Now, whereas in an optical disk, or like for example your CD or DVD, it uses what? It uses or it stores the data optically, okay, rather than magnetically. Then we have solid state storage. So now, which is currently being used by all of us, that is in terms of pen drives or in terms of memory card, memory sticks. Okay. So solid state storage is a personal computer storage device that stores data in a special type of memory instead of on disk or tapes. So again, now moving again towards the software. So I hope up till now it's fine. Any doubts in this? raise your hand, or you can just interrupt me also in between. I hope it is fine for all of you.
Yes, sir.
So if any doubts are there, please do let me know. Okay. So I'll continue. So as this same slide was shown before. Okay. So here what we had discussed was the software is nothing but is a set of instructions given to a hardware to accomplish a certain task. So now this software also can be categorized into three different types. That is the system software, application software, and your utility software. Okay. And always remember that on top of a hardware, the system software, which is the operating system, okay, it always runs on top of your hardware, and on top of your system software, all the other softwares they can run. Okay. So first was your system software. The system software are used to control all components of computers and serves as an interface between user and hardware. Okay. As you can see here, the system software. Okay. Now it works as an interface between the user and the hardware, because the hardware cannot understand the human language, and the human cannot understand the machine language. So all the interpretation, everything is done by our operating system or our system software. So the systems of software controls all components of computing and interface between user and hardware. Then we have our application software. As we know that on top of our hardware, we have our system software. System software. Then on top of this, okay, on top of this, we have our other softwares, which can be our application softwares. Now, what are these application softwares? The application software is used or designed for the specific purpose of the user, okay, only for specific purpose. Like for example, you can see the examples over here: MS Word, MS Excel, okay, all of these, MS Access, Paint, okay, MS PowerPoint. So what does it mean is that it is used or designed for the specific purpose of the user. As you can see in MS Word is used for what? MS Word is used for typing text, okay, for typing, storing, and publishing. Okay, in terms of let's say printout also. Okay. Apart from that, can we do anything else? We cannot do anything else. Can we play games in MS Word? We cannot play games. Can we do messaging in MS Word? We can't do messaging. Okay. So here, what we understand is that it is designed for a specific purpose. Okay. That means to 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 type text, okay, and to publish the text. Okay. Like in the similar manner, we have our WhatsApp. Okay. WhatsApp is a. So what is the purpose of WhatsApp? The purpose of WhatsApp is for communication. Okay. Communication. Initially it was text, but now you can say there are different types of communication: text, video, and calling. Okay. But you can see that all of these, that is your texting, video calling, and even voice calling, are all forms of communication. Right? We cannot type and publish, like for example in MS Word, what we do here. Okay, we cannot use it for certain doing assignment work or official purpose. Okay. So here, what we can do is we can only use it for communication-based purpose. Okay. So that's why an application software is used or designed for the specific purpose of the user. Then we have our utility software. So I hope you have understood what is an application software. So you might be confused then what is a utility software. Okay. So utility software is used to remove any problem or solve a complex situation in computer. So it acts as a helper. Any software which helps us to repair our machine or diagnose any problem in the machine is known as utility software. Like for example, we have antivirus. A very simple example is antivirus. What is the purpose of antivirus? The purpose of antivirus is to protect our machine from any unwanted programs, or if any unwanted programs have already been installed in our machine, so it helps us to remove it. Okay, so what it's doing is it is helping us to maintain our machine and to protect it. Okay, similarly, different kinds of similar kind of different softwares are there. Okay, so we can categorize those softwares as utility softwares, okay, which are not used for certain purpose, a certain specific purpose, but it is used in order to take care of our machine. So that was regarding the different types of softwares. So now let's move towards operating systems. Okay. So I'll not go much into the deeper of the working of an operating system, but I'll just give you an overview of what are operating systems and what are the different few of the available operating systems which are there, which are used. Okay. So accordingly, the five most popular operating systems. Okay, five most popular operating systems. So many of you might have thought only there is only one operating system, that is our Microsoft Windows. Okay. So but as you can see, these are the only the most popular five operating systems. Apart from this, there are several other operating systems also which are present. Okay. So first one you can see is the Microsoft Windows. Okay. This is the logo of our Microsoft Windows. Okay. Microsoft Windows. So Microsoft is the company name and Windows is the operating system. Then we have Apple Mac OS. So Mac operating system, which runs in all the Apple computers. Okay. Then we have Android. Okay, that is Google's Android operating system, okay, which is mostly run in our smartphones. Similarly, we have Apple iOS, which runs in all the Apple phones, iPhones. So apart from this, there is one more operating system which is very popular among programmers, okay, and most of the IT people. That is the Linux operating system. So this is also very widely used. So these five are only the most popular. Apart from this, there are different types, other available operating systems also, which are there. So you might be thinking, why mobile? Why there is a different operating system in mobile and a different operating system in your computer, right? Because mostly in our computer we use Windows operating system, but in our phones we hardly see. Only previously there were few. Previously there were few few phones which came out but didn't make it into the market mostly, which ran Windows operating system. Okay. But why do you think that? Why you might be thinking there? Why there is a difference? Why mobile and computer use different operating systems? Okay. So why are there different types of operating systems for mobile technology and computers? Now the the basic clarification that we can give is that computer systems have to store a lot of complex data, okay, have a different user interface, and need to be prepared for printing, removable disk, and more. So the functionalities are more in our computers, okay, and it also does a lot of complex calculations. Okay? Like for example, if we are running some for programming, we need to install certain specific softwares, okay, for building websites, for developing softwares. Okay, so that can be done in our laptop, and it requires a lot of processing and storing data also. Okay, and also apart from that, it also needs to have a different kind of interface for us, okay? And lots of removable disks are also involved in our laptops. Okay? We always try to transfer data via removable disks. Okay? And we do a lot of printing also. So for that, we can see that there are a lot of functionalities in computer as compared to your smartphone. But now slowly, what is happening is the smartphones are becoming much more similar in terms of functionality to your laptop also. Okay? But still, you can see that computers have lot of more complex functionality. They need to do a lot of calculations as compared to your phones. Okay, and mobile phones don't feature as desktops. They're the same, and that's the same as a computer desktop. Okay, their user interface is much more about simple moves. Okay, things you can do with your fingers or voice. So it's designed to offer a simpler interface. So mobile phones, which is there for your usage, it is designed for very simple type of usage. So that's why there is a difference in the operating system also. So moving on. So now let's look into specifically into Windows operating system. So up till now, I hope you have only most of you, I think most of you have only come across Windows operating system only, right? So Windows operating system, because there is there is always a confusion, okay, in terms of a non-technical user or who are using for the first time any machine, that they assume that if you ask them a question that how many operating systems have you used up till now, so they always tend to say that, sir, I have used around 2 or 3 operating systems. Then if you ask which operating system have you used, so they tend to answer as Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows, let's say Windows 10. But these are the 3 of them are all same operating system. They are just the versions which have been introduced or upgraded versions. Okay. So here you can see that the different versions of Windows from their inception. That means once when they started, it was Windows 1 in 1985. Okay, when the first Windows came out, Windows operating system was launched. Okay, this was the first version. Then came Windows in 1992. There came an update. Okay, you can see when the version changes, there is a certain update in terms of functionality or interface. Okay. So in 1992, the newer version of Windows 1, which was launched, was known as Windows 3.1. Then came in 1995 Windows 95. Okay. I hope no one has used up till now all of these. Okay. Very few might have used Windows XP. Okay. So Windows XP, it was launched in the year 2001. Okay. Then came Windows Vista in 2006. Then then after that, I think most of you might be running Windows 7, which was launched in the year 2009. Okay. Then came Windows 8. It was launched in the year 2012, and and currently most of the new laptops, which if you have bought a new laptop or a new desktop, I think probably Windows 10 will be installed over there. Okay. Now this Windows 10 was launched in the year 2015, and currently this year, um, one last month or maybe last month, they have also launched a new version of Windows 11 has been launched. Okay, and sooner you will be getting it in the market also. So there is certain upgradation over there in the Windows operating system. So you can see these are the different versions of Windows up till now. So this is about Windows operating system. Okay, so as I have discussed, the main function of any operating system is being an intermediary between us and the physical part of the computer. That is your screen, keyboard, hard disk, printer, making it easier to handle. So most of the thing is being taken care by our operating system. That's why previously, before, why is Windows operating system such a hit? You know, why people or the user tend to love it is because it is very simple. If you look into other operating systems, okay, whatever I have discussed over here, other operating systems also, these operating systems, like for example Linux, which we have, okay, Mac OS also, it is popular, but like for example Linux, why it is comparatively similar to like availability, okay, in terms of availability, it is similar to Windows, but why it is not so popular is because of the functionality and ease of use. Okay, because most of the things can be done, most of the things are done using command line, or they need to give certain commands. But in Windows, what is done is you don't need to give any commands. You have a command window which you want to, if you want to use, you can use it. But if you don't want to use it, we can always use the Windows operating system with the help of our mouse. Okay? Very simple. That's why it's a hit among all the users also. Okay? So these are the different versions of our Windows operating system. So now if I go inside Windows, so since you will be, I think most of you might be using, maximum of you are using Windows operating system. So in the Windows operating system, these are the different parts of our Windows operating system. Okay, we have our desktop icon. So this is known as desktop. Okay, the initial, once you start your operating system, what comes is the first thing is your desktop. This is your desktop. You have a wallpaper over here. Okay, we have our wallpaper over here. So this entire space is known as desktop. Okay, so if anyone tells you, please show me your desktop, you need to show this. Then we have icons. These are known as icons. Or if it is in your desktop, it is known as desktop icons. Okay. So icons are nothing but they are pictures of the program which you want to. Suppose there's an thumbnail of pictures. Okay, so these are known as icons. We have a start menu here. Okay, so I think similar. This is an older version of your Windows. Okay, Windows 7, Windows XP. So but mostly it is similar only what we have. So this is the start menu. Then you have quick launch toolbar over here. So these are known as what. So either you can have if you want, or you can remove it also. Okay, and the bottom part, this part, okay, what you see in your machine, this is known as taskbar. When you minimize something, it comes over here, no? So this portion is known as taskbar. Okay, and at the bottom of your right hand side, all the things which you have here, and these are known as, this entire portion is known as system tray. Okay, then you have a clock here. So these are the different parts of your window desktop. So in Windows, if someone tells you to close the window or minimize the window, they need to say a specific program, because all specific programs, they come as small windows. Okay? So these are also known as windows. These are icons. All the icons. Okay. Okay. So apart from this, what I wanted to show you is, because you might be needing it afterwards, because most of you might know it, but few of you might not know it. So I'll just try to show you a few things. So here, as you can see, okay, here, in this one, I hope you can see here. Okay, so here in our Windows, we have these three buttons here, right? Okay, so this is known as, if you want to close the window, you need to click it over here. Okay, so if you just hover around, it comes closed. This is to restore. If you have minimized it or maximized it, it will restore to the default size. And this is the minimize. So if I click this, what happens is it will hide away. It will minimize. Okay, this is the three buttons. And if you want to resize, okay, what you can do is just hover around. Hello. Yes. Hello. So here, if you want to resize your window, okay, if you want to resize your window, you can just resize it in this manner. You can just resize it in this manner according to what you how much size you want to keep your windows. Okay, you see. So this is an application, and each application is represented in terms of windows in our Windows operating system. Okay, and these windows can be resized, maximized, minimized, and closed with these three buttons. Okay. So I think with this, I've come to the end of my session. Okay. So any doubts or anything? What do you if you want to discuss with me? Anything? I have so I've gone through the history of your computers, then the important components, your basic components like hardware and software, and I have tried to define to you and let you know about how to differentiate between a hardware and a software in a very simple manner. Okay. We have also seen what are operating system, and in a software also there are two different types of softwares, right? And how to categorize these softwares. So anything else you want to discuss?
No, sir.
I hope it's fine
No,
for
sir.
all of you. Some of you might not listen to me are saying that the voice is not clear. So anything you want me to repeat, anything or anything extra you want to discuss, please do let me know. Okay? Or I'll just wind up with this session which I have. Is it okay for everyone? Sir. I hope all of you have got whatever I have taught you, whatever I have discussed, or if you have missed anything you want me to repeat, I will repeat it again. Okay? If my voice was not clear in any of the portion, please do let me know. I will repeat it. Is it okay? Practicals will be taken, I think, next week. Okay, next week or this week, I don't know. But you will be given the schedule. Okay. I don't know about what Sir Lenin was discussed. I think he will be back with you once I wind up. He will be coming and he will be winding up with you, and he will be letting you know about tomorrow's session also. Okay, because I think we have a session with him tomorrow, with Sir Lenin tomorrow, right?
Madam, that's good. Yes, it
So so with this I will end my session then. Okay, so I will be giving I will be handing you certain assignments about today's session only. This a small assignment, okay, which you need to submit because my session is only about the introduction part, and after tomorrow's session also again sir will be again providing you his assignment, his part of assignment, because we need to give you marks. Okay. So with this, I will end my session. So I will be handing over to Sir Lenin. Okay, please be in the line. Okay, please don't leave the meeting. I'll just, I'll just let Sir Lenin know that I'm done. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Please don't leave. Okay, I'll let Sir Lenin know that I'm done.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hey Nafi, how are you doing? मैं अनित बोल रही हूँ।
Okay, sorry to keep you waiting. I was just looking for Sir Lenin. Okay, so the assignment will be a very simple one. I'll just give you a Google form. Okay, so over there you just need to answer few of the questions based upon today's whatever I have taught. Okay, so it will not be so tough also, because I know, because it is just an introduction. So I'll be giving you later, just after 1 hour, I will be giving you a link. Okay, I'll be sharing a link with you in the Google Classroom. Fine. So in the Google form, you just need to answer the questions, whatever I have given. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know where I couldn't find Sir Lenin. So I hope you had a good session with me. So if any doubts or queries also afterwards, if you want to discuss anything, you just let me know. Okay. So with this, I'll end today's
Okay,
my
sir.
session. Okay. So thank you.
It was great learning from you.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and good night, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Error.
Everyone. Daniel Bryan Edge. Finn Balor. Brock Lesnar. I smashed everyone. Daniel Bryan Edge. Cesaro. Finn Balor. John Cena. Brock Lesnar. I smashed everyone.
Inflicted on Seth Rollins. I think Edge has a better idea.